In the first behind the scenes video, Dana set up a Steinberg UR22 Mark II and Cubase LE and recorded a live performance of So Far Gone. She then used Cubase and Dropbox to send the file over to me, and I imported it into Cubase AI. I set up a piano track and a vocal track, and then I recorded over the top of Dana's track. Whereas Dana's take is one continuous live performance, I'm in the studio, so I've got the luxury of being able to stop and start and really make sure my close vocal harmonies are sitting right on hers. My vocals are in small vocal takes, or I've even chopped larger takes into small pieces and found the takes that I want. I'm going to be mixing this, so I'm keeping everything tidy and making sure everything's named. I sent a rough audio mix over to the videographer, and they've done a video edit. So I'm dragging that over from my desktop straight into the project window. It's actually quite easy. Once the video is loaded in, I need to sync up the video to the music. My video starts first with a voiceover, so I'm moving that to the start. Now I'm picking up on all of the music events and I'm dragging them back to where the singing starts. The only issue is the sync won't be exactly in time, so we need to select all of the events together and move them all at once. Of course, you draw a rectangle around the events to select them all. Now it's a matter of looking at that video and making minute movements to get these events perfectly in time. I would suggest looking at the vocals because that's where everyone else is going to be looking. If the vocals look like they're in time, then with a live recording, everything else should follow. It is pretty amazing that a packaged or bundled product allows you to import video and mix around a visual. Speaking of the mix, I'm starting with Dana, so I'm soloing her vocal and I'm opening up the inspector, which is the E button. Now I can get a nice overview of everything going on in Dana's track. Now I've noticed that there's still a reverb on Dana's vocals, so I'm just going to take the reverb off, and it makes it a little bit easier to work with the raw material or the raw track. To start with, I'm going over to the EQ. I'm adding a little bit of air in the high end and I'm putting a low cut in. Now I need to change the EQ type, so I click on that little triangle and I've moved it to a high pass. Now it's a matter of working with low and high mids to try and find something that suits Dana's voice. These 2 points are always a good rough area to start. My frequency spectrum just needs to be a little bit bigger on the 3rd point. Some vocalists can sing quite loud in places, and we use compression to limit that and make sure they don't sing above a certain point. I don't have that issue with Dana, so I'm just sending a light compression over the top of her voice. I think the next important thing is really the piano. I want to add a sense of space here, so I'm going into Hassall Sonic SE. I'm going to solo the piano. I'm just going to mess around with the reverb settings here. I just said that some vocal lines can be too loud. It can be the same with some keyboard parts. So you can double click to go into the key editor, go down and find the velocity control, and now we can edit individual velocity notes or velocity as a whole. This is basically how hard the piano player is hitting the note. Let's go and check out the EQ on the piano. It doesn't need much because I'd already chosen a preset that I thought suited the song. I'm going to do a quick balance with reverb and some levels here, so sit back and watch and have a listen. Taking the reverb off the guitar, dropping my backing vocals. Contemporary recording and mixing is an interesting practice. Basically, what we're doing is tricking people into thinking what they're hearing is real, and it's not, because this is how the song started off. Dana was in a completely different place to me. Even now in the video, it looks like I'm doing one long continuous vocal take. And I wasn't. We know that now. We know that I recorded this in sections and then went back and started chopping the sections up. You need to make sure by the way that your sections are nice and neat, and you can do that by putting crossfades or fades in by picking up on the handles on the top left and right hand corner of the parts that you're cutting. This is important to make sure we don't get clicks and pops in between the different vocal takes. Automation is another huge feature in this software. Right mouse click on a track you want to add it to and select Show Automation, then click on Read and Write. Now you just use your mouse to enter automation data out in the main window. And as you do that, you'll notice the fader on the left-hand side moving. It's a great way to get precise control over our mix. At the climax of this track, I've noticed that the piano just starts to sound a little bit too loud. So I'm bringing it down a little bit. It's like having a hands-free mixer. The other thing we need to take care of is the main output. At the moment, this track's still mainly a demo, so I'm not going to go too crazy, but I am going to put a limiter on, and that means that it's going to limit the volume so it doesn't go over a particular level, which is great because we don't know what environment it's going to be played in. It's not like this track's going to blow up any stereos, but it's a very good practice. You've got so many presets there to choose from. You can find a preset that suits your genre and then make changes in the parameters if you need to. You can also load Alan Morgan's master channel strips as well. So just search for master. And that's got his own EQ setting over it. It's a good idea to put a low cut on. And don't worry, you're not actually losing any bass. Well, any bass that you can hear. We can't hear that low. It just stops any processors from processing that low rumble. It's time to make sure that there's no unwanted noises at the end of this track. So I'm dragging it in, I'm looking at my waveform, and I'm bringing the handles in on the top right hand corner of the event to make sure it's a very smooth fade. I'm also going and doing exactly the same at the start. Once you're happy with your mix, it's time to share it. So we go up to File, Export, Audio Mixdown. Now we need to name the file. You can give it a unique name down in the naming scheme box if you want to. It's also good to check out the file format and the sample rate and the bit depth, but once you're ready to go, select the record path, so this is where the file's going to be bounced to, and then you're ready to go. You can actually open it in Wavelab if you have Wavelab and do some further mastering work to the track. Don't worry if you don't have Wavelab, just hit the export button and Cubase AI will instantly start bouncing that down. It's a very quick process.